There are a lot of videos of people building homemade motorized vehicles here on YouTube, and watching these videos can be very entertaining. The people in these videos are highly skilled, and the vehicles they make can be amazing, one-of-a-kind machines. It's overwhelming to get started with a hobby like this, so I made this video that shows how I got started making homemade motorized vehicles. I was introduced to motorized vehicles when I was very young. My uncles had a couple of four-wheelers back in the early 2000s, and when our family got together at our grandparents' farm, they would have fun riding them around.
That right down there is where Chris and Jason jumped the four-wheelers. Here goes Uncle Chris. Bob, how high do you think that hill is?
25 feet probably.
About 25 feet up in the air. These knuckleheads ride these four-wheelers over it. Of course, this is the day before his wedding.
Me and my older brother thought they were lots of fun, and we really wanted to have our own. Eventually, my older brother would get a four-wheeler for his birthday.
I know.
2 years later, I would get one, and pretty soon all three of us brothers would have four-wheelers. It was fun to race around and explore the farm, especially when you did it with friends. One winter, we discovered that we could pull sleds behind the four-wheelers, and it was either super fun or kind of scary, depending on who was driving. If we invited a friend, we could pull two sleds at once and do snowball drive-bys or race or do all kinds of stuff. We even tried snowboarding, but that was a lot harder. All of this showed me how fun motorized vehicles can be. In 2010, my family moved to a new house with a separate garage that was filled with all kinds of tools. This was great for me as I could learn how to use the tools and take things apart as much as I wanted. In 2015, I discovered the Cars and Cameras YouTube channel and I started learning all about go-karts and mini-bikes. I liked their videos because they made it look easy and fun to work on go-karts and mini-bikes, and I realized it was something I could probably do. That Christmas, I got a Motorized Bike Kit, which is a small two-stroke engine that attaches to a bike and turns it into a motorcycle. Once I installed it, me and my brothers had fun riding it around. Building this bike really showed me that it was possible to build something yourself that works great, even if it is a kit. Next year, my dad bought us a broken go-kart. I convinced him to buy me a small welder so I could fix it. Once I fixed it, we drove it around for a bit. It didn't work very well because it was one-wheel drive, so most of the time the back tire didn't have traction. After that, I found a mini bike frame at the junkyard and I installed a new, more powerful engine onto it. This was my first custom build, and it showed me that I could take parts that weren't meant to go together and make them work together. I then decided I was ready to build something totally custom. I got two engines, some scrap metal, bike parts, and go-kart parts and started building. I built two custom mini bikes which had bike front wheels and go-kart rear wheels. Building these mini bikes showed me that I could build something from the ground up, and even if it wasn't the best, it would still work. That Christmas, I got a small motor and some other parts, and I started working on a custom motorized bike. This bike was one of my favorite builds because it used a small CVT transmission, which gave it lots of torque. In 2017, I converted the go-kart into a three-wheeler. I then found out that three-wheeled vehicles are unstable when I rolled it in a gravel lot and scraped my knee down to the kneecap. This taught me how dangerous these vehicles can be because I still got injured even though the go-kart had a roll cage and I was wearing a helmet and seatbelt. After rolling the go-kart, I decided to install a riding lawnmower axle to have more traction and be more stable. However, the gearing was wrong, so it was way too slow. This made me realize that I have to calculate the gearing before I start building, or I might end up with a vehicle that barely works. For the next few years, I started getting more into electronics projects and less into mechanical projects. I also created my YouTube channel, and I realized how easy it is to make videos about the projects I was working on. So far, all of the pictures and videos you've seen make up almost all recordings about these motorized vehicles I built, and they all have been recorded by someone else. Looking back at these old recordings, I realized how much of a mistake it was not recording more of what I built. In 2021, I decided I should build a new motorized vehicle, record it, and make a video out of it. I was having trouble deciding what to make until my friend asked me if I could upgrade his Razor electric scooter. I decided to convert it to gas and do my absolute best to build it as professional as possible. The build turned out great and it still starts and runs perfect 2 years later. This build showed me that it is totally worth it to spend more time on a build to make it more professional, and that the extra time it takes to film the building process is totally worth it. That Christmas, me and my brothers got 2 one-wheel pints. They are pretty easy to ride and they have a long range. They can go through grass, bumpy ground, and even sand. These little boards are way better than I expected. Before I rode them, I thought small electric vehicles were slow and boring because the only other ones I rode were slow rental electric bikes. Just last month, I came across an electric bike kit on Amazon. I was thinking about building some kind of electric vehicle after riding the OneWheels, and this looked like the perfect place to start. There were 2 options, one for the front wheel and one for the rear wheel, so I decided to buy both and a powerful battery and put it all on the same bike so it has twice the power. Once I installed them on the bike, I took it out for a ride and it was way faster than I expected. Building this bike showed me that I could build a small electric vehicle that can be fast and fun to ride. Once I finish building this electric bike, I plan on building a faster electric bike with full suspension that can handle off-roading and jumping, kind of like this one. I definitely think I will build many more small motorized vehicles in the future, especially considering that I will have more mechanical skills and more money to spend on the builds.